He just asked me to stand by the door. Part 1. It all started with a number. Why are some men turned on by older women? Psychologists say it's about experience, control, nurturing, but often it's about who was there during their first arousal. MILF isn't just a fantasy, it's an imprint, and imprints don't fade. Hi, my name is Mia. I worked as a cam model for 2 years. During that time, I heard everything, from basic fantasies to things you'd rather unhear. Every shift was like an open quest, sometimes playful, sometimes like diving into someone else's darkness. This guy entered the room with no camera, no intro, just a call. I accepted. He was young, 25. That was rare, especially without emojis or dirty lines. He said it calmly, almost professionally. Show yourself, full body, stand by the door, turn around. Okay, sometimes it's about clothing fetishes, fashion shows, aesthetics, control. I wasn't against it. Technically awkward, but I set up the camera and stood by the wall. He was silent for 10 minutes, just watching. Then he asked me to come closer, said he wanted to ask a few questions, to feel closer. I enjoy questions. It's like flirting with brains. But this was different. When did you have your first period? How old were you the first time you felt aroused? When did you first get hair down there? I froze, not because of the questions, but the calmness in his tone. No exclamations, no shame, just numbers, facts. They're just numbers, Mia. Say them and we'll move on. I could have hit exit, I really could have. But curiosity took over. He wasn't touching himself. His breathing was steady. It felt like he was collecting data or remembering. I answered, short, emotionless, but inside I was uneasy. What was he doing with this? Why those specific questions? Then he said, repeat after me, just a few words. Whisper them. Imagine you're on a beach. I whispered, it happened on a beach. He added, you were just 13. Something inside me clenched. I wasn't sure if the show had just ended or just begun. Part 2, confession or script? My hand froze over the keyboard. You were just 13. He said it like a line from a scene. No tension, no drama, almost a whisper. I knew the rules. I knew this was a danger zone. He didn't ask me to say it out loud, just to mouth the words. No sound, no emphasis, just a subtle lip movement. It's just a fantasy, he typed, a script, nothing more. I logged off in silence, not out of fear, but because I honestly didn't know how to feel. A few days later, he came back. Again, call, no camera, no hello. I accepted, and he wrote, want to understand where this comes from. He didn't wait for a reply, just started typing. There was a time, he said, when someone much older showed him a kind of attention that confused him. He didn't know what to make of it. Admiration, shame, nervousness. Maybe all at once. From that moment on, he said, something inside him shifted. It's not about what happened, he told me. It's about what it awoke. The imbalance, the mystery. That sense of crossing a line without knowing it. Was it a memory or a metaphor? I couldn't tell. But what I did see was belief. He wasn't aggressive. He never asked for anything explicit. He just kept building the same silent scene. The posture, the breath, the waiting. He wanted me by the door, answering strange, specific questions, and everything had to be utterly casual. It's not about you. It's about what I remember. You're just a scene. He paid well. He was patient. Every time, the same setup. And with each session, I felt my own sense of reality start to shift. Where does a fantasy end and something deeper begin? Can I judge him for that? He never hurt anyone, never crossed a line. He just lived inside a single memory and pressed play again and again. Me? I stood by the door and tried not to disappear inside someone else's script. Part 3. The cost of a silent role. He became a regular, not daily but steady. Once a week, sometimes twice. The script never changed. I stood by the door. He asked me to turn. A few questions, a whisper or two, the same lines, the same pauses. He paid generously. Never asked me to undress, never demanded more. On the surface it all seemed safe, but inside it was burning me out. I stopped seeing him as a sweet 25-year-old guy. His eyes had something frozen, something too heavy for his age. I wasn't sure if he'd been broken or just stuck in a loop of one single memory. But one thing I knew for sure, his desires were rooted in pain. At some point in his youth, he'd had physical intimacy with a woman much older than him. It wasn't violence in the traditional sense, but it left a deep mark. He kept replaying those fantasies, maybe to cope, or maybe to never let them go. I felt my own boundaries begin to blur. When you spend enough time around people who live in the shadows, you start getting used to the dark. I no longer knew what was normal. He didn't do anything wrong. But after every session, I wanted to shower, and not just physically. There were moments when I caught myself thinking, wouldn't it be easier to just undress than to keep tearing my soul apart? Each of these sessions chipped away at me, my mind, my sense of self, because I had to embody their pain, feel their wounds, feed their demons, and still play the host. When I left the platform, I cut contact with him. No explanations, no closure, no goodbyes. He kept messaging me for a while, but I couldn't anymore. I felt sorry for him, but also angry, because he took too much. Sometimes the cost isn't what you show, it's what you feel while playing the part. And you know what I realized? Some scenes don't end until you choose to walk off stage. Have you ever stayed in someone else's story too long?